Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. It's 7 o'clock here in the UK, and it's quite cold, but we are very happy to be here and to welcome you all to this panel using Allyship as a tool for good. So I'm Alessandra Alonso. I'm the founder and MD of Women in Travel CIC. And if you are here, you probably know that we are a social enterprise that uses travel and tourism as a force for good. We focus our social impact around connecting underserved, diverse, female and non-binary talent to employment and enterprising opportunity in travel, tourism, and hospitality. And of course, as a social enterprise, we also have a role in educating the industry around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's an important role because unless the industry really recognizes that value, we will not be able to execute our social mission of employment and enterprising for the talent that we see, which is a diverse talent, as I was saying at the beginning. Now, one of the things that we are really proud about is our Allyship program. And we introduced Allyship as a tool for fostering diversity and inclusion back in 2021. And I think, and I know I'm blowing my own trumpet here, but I think we were the first one to, I guess, structure an Allyship program. And I must say, this is thanks to many senior male leaders who were willing to give us their time and sort of their perspective, and who also believed that allyship would be an important way to support diversity and inclusion. So I am totally delighted to be here today and to present you this panel with some absolutely exceptional speakers. And I am not going to introduce them. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. But before I do that, that's going to happen in a minute. I just want to, I guess, give you a sense of what we mean when we talk about allyship. And yes, indeed, as you are there, please feel free to introduce yourself on the chat, say hello, say who you are, say where you are calling from. And if you have questions, we are going to try and get enough time to answer your question. But also, I remind you that we have a networking session, 20 minutes to half an hour of networking in breakout rooms at the end of this panel so that you can continue the discussion or asking questions if you have any, and meet the panelists, the speakers, and the women and sort of our allies who are here today. And that's a great opportunity to get to know each other and continue the conversation. So what is allyship? Because I'm sure that everybody has heard this term, but perhaps, you know, some people may be wondering, what do we actually mean? And for us, the definition here at Women in Travel, how we define allyship, it's really about being aware of your privilege, power, and using those privileges and power to support, elevate the voices of those who are perhaps less privileged, those minoritized individual and group who don't necessarily have the chances to speak up or to be heard. So it is really starting with ourselves, but then it becomes a collective responsibility. And as we see, everyone can be someone else's allies. But before taking too much away now from the discussion that will follow, can I just start by asking the panelists to introduce themselves? And I'm just going to sort of look at the person who is directly next to me. So please, Shana, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Shana. I'm based in Toronto, Canada. I'm the Director of Partnerships and Enterprise Sales for We Travel. I'm also the Vice Chair on the Board of Directors for Tourism Cares. Yeah, just a little bit about me. We're one of the corporate allyship sponsors, but we'll talk more about that later.
Thank you, Shayna. Let's go to Juliana next.
Hi, everyone. I am a mentee in the Allyship program. My name is Juliana. I'm also the founder of a boutique travel design company called Kumano Adventures. I used to live in the Kumano area of Japan. It's a rural area of Japan that's known for hiking, nature, and other really special and ancient cultural heritage. And I founded this company as a social enterprise. So our goal is to simultaneously provide cross-cultural experiences that are deeply immersive for our guests, but also preserve the cultural heritage of this area as it's rapidly depopulating and people are moving to more urban areas. So we offer semi-custom and custom travel packages, as well as travel consulting on an hourly basis. So it's really nice to meet you, and I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you, Juliana. Thank you very much. And Stuart, coming to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stuart Greif. I'm the Chief Strategy Innovation Operating Officer for Forbes Travel Guide, previously an executive in travel at Microsoft, JD Power, and a startup that became a unicorn. And I'm a proud ally as part of the Women in Travel Allyship program.
Fantastic. And indeed, an ally. Thank you, Stuart. Coming to you, Mina.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mina, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of 40 Hammocks. 40 Hammocks is a group trip and a group booking platform. We help small groups access discounts to premium accommodations that are otherwise only available to larger groups. And I'm a mentee, and I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you, Mina. We are excited to have you, especially as it is free in the morning where Mina is. So I think she's doing amazing at not yawning in front of the camera. Well done, Mina. Thank you for strong coffee. Really, that's what's needed now. Jeremy, to you, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeremy Sampson. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Travel Foundation. We're a nonprofit that is registered in the UK, but we operate globally. And I live in Spokane, Washington. I've been an ally since the very beginning. Alessandra called me up and asked me to be a part of the inaugural program, and I said yes right away. And we've also been partnered with Women in Travel for the last several years, always looking for alignment opportunities. And I have, I believe in some ways it was a little bit of the spark for this event. So it was hoping to just bring awareness to North America and do some sort of North America time zone friendly events, so we could spread the word about this amazing program, which has been really impactful on me, and I know several of my fellow allies and several of the women that I've had the chance to work with as well. So really excited to share those stories today.
Thank you. And you're absolutely right, Jeremy. You were the spark for this panel because you raised the question around the Americas. And yes, you are now going through your third cohort. So you have been with us since the beginning, and I'm delighted that you see the value in being there over and over again. So thank you very much for your introduction. So first of all, I wanted to open up this this panel with a question to all of you. I mean, please feel free for all of you to contribute. But what role do you think allyship play in fostering a more inclusive industry? So from your viewpoint, where do you put that? Why is that happening through allyship? And Stuart, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'd start with a top-down perspective. I think if you were to ask any CEO of any company, is there something that you could control, that you could do that would lead to more revenue and profit, better decisions, higher employee morale and engagement, and customer satisfaction, how many would say no to that? Zero, right? And yet all the data, including from Harvard Business Review and other seminal organizations, show diverse teams simply perform better. And so while it is, while it's an ethical and moral right, I believe, to do so, it's absolutely a business imperative. And I think to recognize that talent is equally distributed, but opportunity is not, means it's incumbent upon all of us who are at every level in our career, but especially in senior roles where we have the opportunity and the power, for lack of a better term, to drive change, to help play a leadership role, supporting, advocating, and accelerating that change.
Absolutely. Very well put, Stuart. Thank you very much. Anyone who wants to add to this from the panelists?
Sure, I'm happy to. I mean, Stuart kind of brought it all together beautifully. For us, really, it was just about allyship is really a cornerstone in fostering diversity and inclusion just in the workplace in general. It goes beyond merely for us just acknowledging diversity. It's really an active and intentional commitment to creating this environment where everybody feels valued, heard, and respected. We look at it as one team working collaboratively towards very ambitious goals, and everyone's ideas really play a crucial role in helping, We Travel or any other business kind of reaching its full potential.
Fantastic, thank you. Yes, and we are going to talk briefly afterwards about the difference between, the male allyship program versus the corporate, and if anybody is puzzled about that or doesn't know the differences, we are going to talk a little bit about that too. Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, tourism is no better than any other industry in creating leadership opportunities for women. Alessandra probably knows the statistics better than I do, but to me, it's almost embarrassing that the industry is not better. Particularly because the heart and soul, the beating heart and soul of this industry on the ground is women. I mean, a large majority of small businesses working on the ground in communities are women, or they're women-owned, women-operated, or have quite an extensive amount of women working on the ground, delivering tourism experiences every day. But the higher up you go into leadership, and there's just fewer and fewer opportunities, and I feel that our industry should be better. I mean, I think it should be better in lots of things. That's what I do, is mostly advocate for the industry to be better. But this is one that seems like it should be so easy in a way, given the heart and soul. So it's really important, and we know, and there's great research demonstrating that allyship and sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, I think there's some feedback. Yeah, if you've got your microphone but you are not a speaker, please mute yourself. Thank you. Sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
No, the research shows that allyship is one of the keys actually to creating more opportunities for women in leadership, is for men, for male allies to have the opportunity to experience allyship, so that we can learn and our perspectives can evolve, and for women to have opportunities to be connected, elevated, to learn, to teach, and to just take advantage of such a network to create opportunities that maybe were not there previously. So this is really intentional about creating those opportunities at the very top as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you make the point about women in leadership, which is absolutely right. I think it's also about the intersectionality of, women and other sort of identities and other sort of areas where the representation is poor at every level, particularly so in leadership, you're right, but actually across every level of the industry. When you begin to sort of layer different perspectives, different identities, different sort of aspects, woman, non-binary, disability, race, faith, sexual orientation, gender identity, then, then you are really looking at very, very small chances, very, very small opportunities, so the number of opportunities available to them. So indeed, thank you. I wonder if, Mina, yes, you have a viewpoint on this as well.
Yes, and such great insights on allyship, fostering inclusivity. Allies, help others to be seen and heard, but they also uplift the underrepresented by giving them encouragement. And I'd like to speak from a personal level, from my experience through the allyship, where I faced some challenges balancing my personal life and work. And as a woman who was brought up in a culture that expected certain roles to be portrayed by women, I found myself struggling at work. And, I had this conversation with my mentor, my ally, Stuart. We talked through it. And he told me, hey, you do what you feel is right for you, not what is expected of you. And that conversation alone helped me to get through this struggle that I have at work. And now I'm happy at work because I just did what he suggested.
Yeah, that is good. And obviously there is a lot of wisdom that is transferred, through the allyship, but I am sure, and, Stuart can come in on this later, but that the wisdom is two ways, and that there is also a lot of learning from, that are passed from you to Stuart. Juliana, what's your viewpoint on this?
I'm a bit of a data nerd. So before I joined the allyship program, I started to do a little bit of digging in terms of the numbers and representation in the tourism industry. And Jeremy is absolutely right. More than half of the workforce of the hospitality industry is women, but less than a quarter of them are in managerial positions in the boardroom or C-suites, and it's even less for CEOs. So in addition to that, I also was looking at some statistics on networking. So just thinking about fulfilling job positions alone, 70% of positions are never even posted. And of the ones that are posted, 80% are generally filled by somebody who was referred. And so I'm sitting here, I have no connections in the travel industry professionally, but it's something I'm deeply passionate about and I want to get more involved in. And so when I saw the opportunity to participate in this program, I'm like, this could potentially open many doors for me, because I will meet somebody who has those doors open for them. So it's just it has done exactly that. I'm very excited for the future questions where I can talk a little bit more about what the program has given to me, but I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. And if you've just joined us, make yourself comfortable, even online. And, if you want to say hello in the chat, feel free. And we are very happy to have you with us. I guess that as I started with Stuart, the first sort of question, Stuart, that you answered already spoke about why a senior male leader should be looking at allyship as something that it's almost a no-brainer. It makes absolute sense because, in the context of sort of EDI and in the context of how EDI fosters a happier, more authentic, more engaged workplace. So I guess I wanted to ask a little bit more in detail about what attracted you to allyship, as a male leader, and I guess as a sort of subset of question, the benefits that you seem to be receiving by practicing allyship. And then I'm going to come to you, Jeremy, with the same question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be a core value and conviction, and that comes from growing up with two sisters and a mother who worked, as well as respecting women and seeing them as every bit, not just my equal, but oftentimes my better, just as I do with, with people from diverse backgrounds, not just gender. I think it also takes intellectually that stepping back, which I touched on, and I'll go a little deeper on, which is the recognition that talent is equally distributed, but opportunity isn't. And just by nature of, it doesn't matter what group historically men that look like me have been defining culture in ways we're not even conscious of. That biases in ways that are probably more pernicious if you're not open to recognizing intellectually that that's the case. If all women, for example, ran the world, I bet we would have much better policies for flexible work and stepping out when you have children in ways that are not detrimental to one's career. And so I think it's incumbent on us to accelerate change. I think women, I see in a very positive way, a sea change coming of women in the industry. And I agree the glass ceiling and defer to those of you who are women facing the challenges or people of diverse backgrounds that have equally challenging constraints that you ought not to be facing to articulate that. But you don't wait simply because a wave is coming. It's incumbent on all of us to accelerate it. And what I've gotten back is probably not just with women and diversity and trying to level the playing field and accelerate talented folks who face higher barriers to be where I am. But I think in many ways, just broadly, there's this element of learning from others all around us. Satya, who's of Indian background, is the CEO of Microsoft, used to say, be a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all. And I find with Mina, I've learned just as much. I think one of the cornerstones when Mina shared that, my advice was helpful is that same advice would have been completely wrong for Tanya or Khalif or Simona, right? You need to listen and understand the individual and their priorities and be a sounding board and provide perspective and even how you choose to convey that depending on one's personality, background. It's not about me and my experience or saying, oh, I've done this before, I know someone just like you. I think that's a recipe for disaster. It's about learning, understanding empathetically, and then helping support the person in the way they need. Only they know themselves best. And never being so rigid or directive in a way that is contrary to them making the decision for themselves of what's best.
Thank you, Stuart. I mean, there's some really interesting point here about the benefits and also about the good qualities that an ally can display in terms of the listening and the active listening. And we're going to go into that in a moment as well. Jeremy, what's your perspective?
Well, first of all, I had just come off a when you first reached out to me, Alessandra, I had just come off a period where I was recruiting new board members, and I actually didn't realize it was my board chair, Helen Morano, who I had sort of delivered the final candidates to the board for voting, and she said to me, Jeremy, they're all women. She said, you all the candidates you brought us were women. And I hadn't even noticed. It's actually been a default of mine that I have always really enjoyed and perhaps had even a bias towards working with women leaders over the years. And I've had amazing women mentors and managers over time. So yeah, I didn't even notice. And she was the one that had to come back to me and say, I think we actually need to recruit some men, which was just a funny aside. But I just come off this realization that I had this bias. And I had been thinking about a lot of issues at the same time, because we also talked a lot about the diversity of our board, which in many ways I must admit was not very diverse, in spite of the fact that we were gender diverse. And you talk, Alessandra, about the intersectionality, and there was just so much learning happening from the get-go. In my role, I was a new CEO at the time, and in 2019 we were going through COVID. There was the conversation here in the States coming off the George Floyd situation. So I was feeling a particular hunger to learn and to find a place where I felt I could really bring my best self to to an engagement. And two reasons that this struck me: one, I don't run a big company. I run a small nonprofit, so I don't have a lot of opportunity to hire people to, so when we're talking about our policies and our inclusivity, it's not around sort of big, big policies with regards to how we interview and how we hire. I mean, we do look at that, but it's just so infrequent that we even have openings on our team. So that I felt like actually the most important thing I can do was to be a great advocate for diversity in our industry. And so I knew that this would be one way to build out my own skills, my existing passion, and just my language for being able to talk about some of these important issues and raise awareness, which is a big part of my job. Also, I mean, very similar to what Stuart just shared, but I am constantly interested in learning and improving, and I loved the 360-degree nature of the allyship program. And it was very clear from the very beginning, you are learning just as much as you are mentoring or providing support. And that really appealed to me from the very beginning, because I'm a relationship kind of person. So I connect with people. I really like to get to know their perspective. And that is the way that I absolutely learn best and understand what people are going through. So from each of the women that I've worked with, I've learned quite a lot. And I think there were things that I knew perhaps already somewhere, I had some idea of, but to really have these intimate conversations where you're digging into the perspective. Why is this happening? Why do you feel this way? What are some of the what are some of the things that you're experiencing day to day, which are not things I experience as a man or as particularly as a white male in the workplace. And it's been really fascinating to have those perspectives so deeply shared, because I then I really can understand, like, where does it come from? What can I do in my own behaviors to encourage more openness and inclusivity, to encourage better relationships, to encourage the men on my team to be better managers. And that's really motivating. That's why I'm still here, because each time around, I just feel like I'm gaining that perspective. And oftentimes I have to remind the women that I'm working with that's part of the deal, not because they're being selfish, but because they often feel that they don't have anything to add. And that's a very sort of unfortunately common perspective. And I'm here to say that 100,000% you do. And please continue to share, because the more of that open conversation we can have, the more we can understand each other and where we're coming from. And we can I think we can learn from those experiences to ensure that we've got sort of better responses and behaviors, at that level of creating opportunity, whether it's macro, like creating roles, or whether it's even in the micro day-to-day. Hey, like, we haven't heard from you today. Make sure that you're bringing your perspective to our meeting, even if you're feeling shy or don't feel that you have something to add, because you do. So.
Thank you, Jeremy. And it's great to see your passion still after 3 years of being involved. It's great to see how much you still have to give and want to give to the program, which is great. And very briefly, Shana, as a representative sort of a corporate allyship, for you, sort of being an organization that wants to visibly commit by being an ally, what do you think what do you think as an organization you can bring to this party of allyship in terms of we believe that you can do a lot, and that's why sort of we created also a corporate. But from your viewpoint, do you think that more corporates should be allies, more organizations should get involved, and could they benefit from it?
I mean, I think the obvious answer is yes. But why for us, when I put corporate allyship, when I put it in front of our CEO, And we're a travel tech company, right? So this is a very different avenue for a technology company to go down. It was the fastest yes I have heard from him on anything ever. It wasn't even a question for him. And that was a really beautiful thing for me to see, as, to be honest, as a woman, as a Jewish woman, kind of working my way through and building myself up in this industry. So to see him sign off on it so fast was beautiful. I know at We Travel, for us, forming strong allyships with diverse communities is integral to our commitment to inclusivity and innovation. We have staff from, I believe, over 27 different countries around the world. So we're lucky that we're really able to hire from anywhere and everywhere. So the best person for the role is able to fill the role. I'm one of, I think, only 3 staff members in our company that are based in Toronto, and I think we're almost 200 people at this point, based in Canada in general. But for us, embracing diverse perspectives, it only enriches our workplace culture, and why I think for us at We Travel, we've been as successful as we are. But it also enhances our ability to understand and serve the diverse needs of a global customer base. And so you learn both ways. We really believe that diversity fosters creativity, innovation, like I mentioned, but leading to better problem solving and ultimately driving business success. Being an ally, we're learning, just like Jeremy and just like Stuart were talking about, we're learning both ways. It's a really beautiful thing. And we want allyship for us to extend past the reach of our internal team, which is why we actively seek out partners who not only appreciate the importance of diversity, but are also dedicated to promoting inclusive practices within their own spheres and really amplifying our collective impact, which is why we are partnered with Women in Travel and have been for the last couple of years now.
And I think, Shana, what's also absolutely great to me is that by becoming a corporate ally, what you have done with Travel is actually opening up opportunities for a series of small and micro entrepreneurs who you have put forward as mentees. So instead of just speaking on your own internal people, you've actually facilitated the opportunity within your ecosystem. So immediately there is a double allyship in there, because what you are doing, you are giving someone opportunity they wouldn't have, and giving them the chance to access the network, access the event, access the mentoring. And I think that has been, in all honesty, genius, because it is kind of so of that, the fact that you have thought, I'm putting some money on the table, but they're not even going to be spent on my people. They're going to be spent on the community. I thought that was an absolute brilliant, way to exemplify all support and real commitment as we travel. And I think the mentees that have come on board that way are really enjoying and benefiting. So that is absolutely. And talking of benefits, let's go to the mentees. I'm going to start with you, Juliana. So we already spoken about benefits, but for you in particular, why were you attracted to this program? So what kind of personal and professional development objectives have you been able to or are you in the process of working through this allyship program? Is it me, or I can't hear you, Juliana?
No, we can't hear you, Juliana.
Okay, maybe we go to Mina and then you try and go. So Mina, can I ask you the same question?
Yeah, of course. So being new in the travel industry, having an ally who's been in the travel industry for, have a long experience in the industry, it's helped open doors for me, introduce me to people that I would not have probably met on my own. So that's one of the professional things that I took from this, or I'm taking from this program. Personally, it's building my confidence. That's one of my takeaways for having an ally. who's supporting you and encouraging you is having that confidence built.
Fantastic. Thank you. Juliana, are we, can we hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
All
can.
right. Success. When I applied for this program, I felt incredibly stuck, and I felt like I was very much at a low point in my career. It was due to several factors. I had recently torn my ACL, so I couldn't walk anywhere. I had just quit my job at Holland America Line to start this small company, and I kind of felt like, what am I doing? I'm doing this all on my own, and I have no idea if this is going to be, successful, scalable, etc. And because I had quit my job, I had no money coming in. So I was trying to find ideally some kind of job within the travel industry to allow me to develop professionally within the industry, but also allow me to kind of build this passion project of a business that I had created. So it was definitely a low point. And then upon finding the program, rather quickly things started to turn around. As I mentioned previously, I didn't know anybody really in the travel industry, aside from a handful of colleagues at Holland America Line. I definitely didn't know anybody who started a travel business. And so when I was partnered with Jeremy, it was just so refreshing from the get-go to just talk to somebody about the same things that you're passionate about and interested in. And then that continued to snowball. So since I had kind of two goals for the program, find a job and build my business, Jeremy has helped me in these two different directions. As far as building the business goes, he has been a wonderful, partner, sounding board to brainstorm ideas, focus on strategy and my long-term goals, my exit strategy. He really encouraged me to flesh out my financial projections and even put me in touch with people who have started travel businesses themselves to give me a little bit of behind the scenes look as to how I might do that. He encouraged me to find a partner, which I'm very happy to say that as of yesterday, I have done. And then on the job search side, it's all about opening doors and networking. And he has done this for me as well. He sent me job postings that I might be interested in. He's introduced me to people who I'm curious about how their team works, whether they're hiring or not. He's just kind of been my gateway into a much larger community that is travel. So I feel like I've just gone leaps and bounds from when I started, those months ago.
Which is fantastic to hear. And I must say also that you have the whole communities of mentees. And many of you ladies are entrepreneurs, trying to sort of scale up their business, Mina being one and many others. So it's also about making the most of your peers and sort of exchanging and networking with your peer in that context. And both of you, Mina and Juliana, one of the things that sometimes we get as a sort of comment is the fact that, oh, why are you encouraging male allyship? Are you just sort of supporting the patriarchy? Why would men be the allies? Why would men be the mentor? Why couldn't a woman be? And of course, absolutely women can be, and we have also other channels for women mentors. But did that question ever come into your mind? Or, what would you answer to that? I know what I would answer, but, what about you, ladies? Mina.
I feel fortunate to have a community of strong, successful women in business. And as you had said, Alessandra, just being part of this group of female mentees is already an exceptional support system for women in travel. With that said, I feel like I'm lacking a male ally. And so that's actually what caught my attention when I came across this program, is I wanted to have an ally where I can get a different perspective from a male point of view. And I don't think that it's counterintuitive at all to be working with male ally, especially because we're talking about inclusivity and diversity. And, that means that we can be allies with anyone. It just doesn't have to be women. and just being open to working with and partnering and listening to different people.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pina. Thank you. And Juliana, what about you? What did you think when you thought, oh, I'm going to have a male ally?
Yes, I'm coming at it from a slightly different perspective. I wasn't actually looking for a male ally when I discovered the program. So I didn't choose male allyship in a sense, but as we were talking previously, it's just a fact that most managerial positions in the travel industry are held by men. And I was very much looking for somebody who has more experience than me, who has that managerial experience. That said, I think the male allyship program is unique in that it kind of directly addresses that gap in gender diversity within the industry. I mean, it directly creates channels through which women and non-binary people can meet with male executives and, you know, hopefully get lifted up through networking, through mentorship, you know, through relationship building, and ultimately join them at these decision-making levels. So it was appealing to me from that perspective.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about the practicality of this program, the practicality of allyship. So I want to ask the panel, you know, in your role as an ally, what do you think it takes to be a good ally? And then I'm going to ask the same question in terms of the mentee. So what does it take to be a good ally and a good mentor? Stuart, you mentioned active listening, and it's certainly one of the things that matter. What else, in your view, you know, as you go through, do you get feedback from Mina telling you, oh, I'm not sure today, or, you know, what are the things you are looking into?
Yeah, I mean, I believe, as I said, just to start out, the foundation is listening and understanding the person and asking more questions than you're actually making statements. Most good leaders broadly have a very high question to statement ratio. And I think when you get to know someone and try to support them, as I have the opportunity, which I'm grateful for with Mina, it's really understanding that first. I think then it's based on that. This isn't a whether allyship, and this isn't specific to you, Mina. So, but we're not emotional support animals, right? Advocacy means doing things. It means not just being there, which is part of it. All of us need someone to listen and empathize, but it's helping them work through in ways that make sense for them. You know, what types of actions, what alternatives, what different approaches they might consider. It also means trying to help connect them with people and advocate in ways where it's welcome, right? Asking permission, not simply doing it. And that might be introductions on the business. It might be introducing them to other people in the industry. I see we're very fortunate to have Melissa Maurer, who I'm a huge fan of, who has been a trailblazer, the ex-CMO of Expedia, who has for a long time advocated for women. And you should Google her as well, or ChatGPT, some of the things she talks about, and hopefully we can co-opt her on this call at some point, or following up. But it's, you know, it's that notion of advocacy, and especially not just with the people on this call or in this program, but broadly in your companies, in your departments, being an advocate, especially when someone's not there. I'm very proud at Forbes Travel Guide. We're 50% women led at an executive level. And when you go director level and above, it's more like 65%. And we've made great strides, but still have work to do in certain areas of diversity. And so I think it's important to be advocates when nobody is there to advocate, right? With other men who are in positions of power, and behind the scenes, one-on-one and in group settings to speak up, particularly by definition, because most people, not just gender, but also are underrepresented, they won't be at those key conversations. There's voices won't be there and heard, and people won't necessarily think of them, whether it's about compensation decisions, promotions, opportunities, etc. And so being an advocate means doing all of those things, especially in between when you're not actively engaged with the people you're being allies for.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you very much. And again, I think it's, you put the focus on the doing things practically, and that is absolutely right. I mean, I always say when you leave the meeting with your ally, you should both have a to-do list, not just the mentee, the mentor as well. And Jeremy, what about you? What do you see as the qualities of a good ally?
Yeah. I mean, listening is the obvious one, and I wanted to say it again, but I want to kind of give a different angle on listening, which is that I have to, and this is something I have to challenge myself to do, but I think I've done fairly well within this program, which is to not jump to conclusions. So it's to listen for a while, because and that brings us to another attribute, which is trust building. I mean, it does take time. Even if you connect right away, it's going to take time for the real issues to come out and to unfold. And many times I find that the mentees are not necessarily even 100% clear themselves on what their goals are. They may have some goals, but they tend to change and evolve as you sort of unpack the situation and encourage them to dig deeper. So I do a lot of question asking, but over time, I don't think it's like, well, let's find out everything in the first session and design it. It can take the first several weeks. The benefit of that work is that you get to the real challenge, and oftentimes the reason for not wanting to bring up the real challenge can be confidence, or can be even just sort of lack of cognizance of what is beneath the surface. And with a previous mentee, she found that she was unwilling for a while to actually realize that the problem in her job was her manager, was her boss, and we actually needed to dig into that relationship and what was going well and how she could handle it, how she could sort of bring confidence to that conversation in a way that could actually change the situation. And that was not at all where we had started. So I think just being really open to how that conversation can evolve dynamically, and as you build trust, recognize that some things may, it's really an opportunity to dig into that relationship and go a little bit deeper, which can be really therapeutic. It is a bit like therapy sometimes, but for both of us, and I do therapy a lot. I've been through therapy a lot recently, so I've been trying to apply a little bit of that technique that I've been learning from my own therapist, not in a professional, like I'm a therapist way, but just some of the techniques about listening and trying to diagnose and understand, and letting the conversation play out just a tad longer than you necessarily default to get to the heart of the matter. And then the other thing I would say is just, not being too prescriptive up front about what you're going to say and what you're going to do and what advice you might have. I find that I often think this is what, this is my advice. These are my strengths. This is what I'm going to share. And it could get sort of redundant, but I find that I have more to add. Oftentimes if I'm being humble and self-reflective myself, and I notice that the women have really appreciated that, because oftentimes they're really surprised when I share that, I also have imposter syndrome, or I also am afraid sometimes to have this conversation, or these are very human attributes that maybe because of my background, I find it slightly easy. I find it default easier to overcome, but like deep down, I have some of the same challenges. And I think when we start to connect at that human level is when we start to understand each other and can really solve some things. and it just tends to let the air out of the room and think, oh my God, we're all like this. A lot of us feel this way, and now we just need to overcome the barrier that's been unnecessarily placed in front of you in order to address the challenge or the situation at hand. So
Just real quick, hop on something Jeremy said that I think is really critical and unique about this program that is important for mentees, right? Oftentimes people have programs within their own corporation or their own company, but having somebody that's external where you can be completely safe and vulnerable without adverse outcomes or worries about your career, your compensation, politics, So it's not one or the other. You want almost like your own board of advisors for yourself personally in your life. One of them critically ought to be somebody like a Jeremy or myself, or somebody like a Melissa, and others on this call outside your company, because you simply can't have the same kind of truthful conversations when you're having to be concerned about how that may impact your career, your compensation, your family, etc.
Really good
Thank you for that. I think it's
point.
a really
Oh,
important
oops,
point,
good
Stuart.
point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jeremy. Yes, go
Yeah.
ahead. I'm just conscious of time a
No,
little bit, and I do want to ask
just,
Rina and Juliana about
yeah, no,
very quickly, and
go,
then I
go,
know
let
that there
them.
were a couple of questions, so I also want to give people the opportunity to ask. Juliana and Mina, for you, what are you discovering a bit about being a mentee? What are the good traits of a mentee?
I can start. I have a few thoughts on this, but I think the most important thing is, which for me was the hardest thing, is just to be honest about what you want and ask for it. You know, I remember my very first call when I met Jeremy. I felt so nervous to say I didn't have a job and I needed help finding one. You know, I felt nervous to say, like, I've started this business and I have no idea what I'm doing because I've never done anything like this before. But if you can ask for what you want and kind of set those fears aside, then you can actually work on the problem and solve it together. I think there's this temptation to kind of like, you know, show off and feel worthy of mentorship, and that's not the case with this program. You can be exactly who you really are, and then work together to achieve the milestones that you come up with together and that you set for yourself. And then a couple of other things that just popped into my head were I keep a business journal. I actually started it when I started the program. This is a personal choice, and it has helped a lot. I use it in between the meetings I have with Jeremy and other members, fellow mentees within the program. But I also use it to kind of process what we've talked about with each of our mentorship sessions. You only get so many of those, and a lot of great stuff comes out of them. And it can be easy to kind of like let some of that knowledge, you know, kind of go through the sieve of your mind as you're juggling life. And so having a business journal, I say journal because it's like less formal than, you know, maybe like some other kind of documentation. You can really kind of like brainstorm with yourself and keep track of everything that you're learning. Yes.
Same concept.
But yeah, I think those two things have been kind of the key things that have allowed me to really sort of feel like I'm making the most of the program.
That's brilliant, Juliana. Thank you. And I think actually the reflection log is a tool that everybody should use because it really helps you to fix the learning from your conversation or events around them. And Mina, what about you?
So when I joined this program, my expectation was, you know, it's a mentor-mentee where I would be listening a lot and just absorbing and learning from my mentor. But as we progressed, I've learned that actually the best way to benefit from this program is to talk and to be open about yourself as well. And, you know, Jeremy, Stuart, and Juliana mentioned it, like being vulnerable is part of the success of this program. Being vulnerable and sharing your experiences as well, because your mentors are not just, you know, telling you what to do, but they're also listening about your experiences. And at the same time, I feel that they're also picking up and there is value that you can share from this relationship. So being open and just reciprocating, I think, are good things to bring into this program.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Now, we are leading to 8 o'clock, and I know that we had a little bit of extra time. Now, what I'm wondering is, because we are not a huge group, whether we want to stay in this plenary session to network amongst ourselves, and maybe those who are willing to turn their camera, if you want, you put your camera on. If you haven't got it on, you can do so. And then I know that there were a couple of questions at least. I saw our hands up. Simona, is there anything in the chat?
So if everyone wants to just unmute themselves and ask a question, they're welcome to do so just in a group, because now it's just introductions in the chat rather than questions.
Are there any questions from the audience, from those who are listening? And that has caught your attention, or that you want to ask any of your panelists at all? Otherwise, we might go into the breakout room then, if that's the case. But Catherine, perhaps?
Yeah, just popping on my, it's quite dark here, apologies. It's been really interesting to listen to it. It's like I've said in the chat, it's a path that we're on at the holidays. And it's probably a new theme for me. I'm quite used to mentoring, but I'm perhaps less associated with allyship. So it's really interesting to hear the conversation. We did a session actually internally with Microsoft, came in to talk to us about their program, which was also fascinating. And it's funny because I think some of the things I recognize I do anyway, I think just having been in the work environment for a long time. But it does make me realize there's things I don't think about. So, and I think one of the things for me is the standing up for others. I do it quite gently. So I will support people and influence, but I'm perhaps less vocal about stepping up and saying things. And I think that's something I really take away from these conversations, that it's actually about moving to action as an individual and role modeling for other people, actually how to do that piece.
Yeah. Thank you, Catherine. And I think, it's very important what you're saying, because actually the role of the ally is indeed to speak up and to point out to situations that perhaps are less than okay, and to make sure that other people are recognized when they are contributing, when they are bringing value to the organization, to ensure that, positive ideas and valuable ideas are not lost just because they are, the idea of someone who is not at the top of the hierarchy, or things like that. So I think all of that is absolutely very, very valuable. But I wonder if any of our panelists has any comments, or indeed anyone in this room who wants to comment about it. Shayna, please.
Sure. I'm going to kind of take Catherine's lead, where she recognized something that she wanted to do better for herself, like something that she could do for others. And it was something that Stuart said, that it seems so simple, but yet I don't think I do it enough. I tend to make more statements than I do ask questions. And I need to continue to develop as a leader, and I want to continue to develop, but I also want my team to develop as leaders. And by asking them questions, I think that will also help them develop and see the things that maybe I get asked from other levels of management within my business. But it just, something clicked for me when he said that. And so thank you for that. And I'm going to remind myself to keep asking questions versus making statements. That's how I learn, but then I believe that's also how my team learns as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. And do not underestimate the power of silence as well after the question, because that's when things really come out. So
there's a great question I was taught by somebody who's a coach. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he said the best coaching question ever is, "And what else?"
Yeah.
And just keep asking that, because it's surprising what comes out. I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to go. Actually, my best ally, my husband, has put food on the table so that I don't eat too late at night. So I'm going to have to leave. But thank you, everyone, for the conversation.
Have a nice evening. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Anyone else who wants to ask questions or just say hello? I know that Livia had their hands up. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you had a question, it's still valid to ask now, or anyone else.
Have you got sort of a surplus at all in mentors or mentees? How's the matching working?
Yeah, so Colin, thank you for the question. So from our viewpoint, we try and onboard the majority of allies and mentees throughout the summer. So the cycle goes from sort of July into June, and most mentees are matched between September and October. Some early matches happen in August. And we tend to have pretty much sort of, we try and sort of and onboard the number of people that we need, but obviously we welcome allies, you know, even immediately matched, we welcome allies because we really want everyone to act as a role model. And mentees, you know, depending on where they are and where they want to be, sometimes we say to them, look, you're better off delaying your joining us to the next cohort because the current cohort is too advanced. But overall, because there are also events and networking and a variety of meetings such as this one that you can attend, then mentees tend to find it that is beneficial as well. And remember, it's not just about going, of course you have the one-to-one relationship, but the point is also that you have access to a whole network of mentors and allies. And in fact, we have a mentee allies networking event in a few weeks, or, you know, at some point. So we also do mix people because we want the mentees to meet everyone, not just the one ally that they are working with. Anyone else? Is anyone else here in the sort of in the room currently having outside our program a mentor, an ally, a male, or, you know, being an ally to someone? What are your views on that? You know, how can we all be better allies? I think it's a question to everyone.
I could just add perspective that, you know, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, and a lot of it is hard. It's getting over your own bullshit. Pardon my frankness. It's being courageous in the sense of doing that which is uncomfortable and finding ways to do it that can be emotionally escalating or triggering, but are still important. So, for example, Alessandra is aware of this, but it's not anything I'm sure publicly. There was a major hotel industry event, and it's in a part of the industry that's not very diverse to begin with, particularly for women. And you know, amongst the posts they had on LinkedIn was a leadership panel. I think you can probably tell where this was going. And they had some other panels that had some female representation, but the entire leadership panel was a bunch of white men. And so I privately reached out to the senior executive who runs it, and I shared this with Alessandra and also Emily Fertelier, asking for their feedback, asking for their guidance and any thoughts and expertise and that sort of thing. And I managed to have a one-on-one conversation with them. And I knew that if I were to be heavy-handed or come across this holier than thou, I think even all of us that are allies doing our best fall short all the time in ways, by definition, almost we're not conscious of, and we're constantly learning. And so it was trying to diffuse it from saying, look, I understand there are some challenges. Let me share some perspective, or why, you know, in spite of maybe in some areas where you have female leaders, why this is challenging. And so I don't know that I don't believe I won the war. It's not one simple thing, but that, you know, little additional uncomfortable conversation, and to this person's credit, he took the conversation, did piercing the consciousness, helps create more awareness that maybe it didn't win the war that day, but had some small impact, and going forward carries it forward. And so I think there are ways you have to get over your own BS and be truthful with yourself, and also recognize that ourselves, even the best of us that are fully committed, fall short all the time, right? And that's okay, but it's not okay to not challenge yourself. That's what leadership's about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Shayna.
I was just going to say, this might not directly answer the question, but I thought it'd be interesting to share when, so being a corporate ally, we do get to put forward some mentors from within our business. And so in our management meeting, when we had officially decided to become a corporate ally member, I put it forward to any of the men that were there that wanted, I explained what the program was. And I said, you know, if anyone is interested in being a mentor, please reach out to me. And during the meeting, 4 people in my meeting reached out to me directly. And 3 out of 4 of them asked me if I thought they were good enough to do this. It was really interesting because you're talking about like our VP of finance, who I think is just outstanding. You're talking about our head of people. You're talking about one of our marketing managers, and they're actually asking me if I think that they're good enough. Do they have enough to teach somebody? Do they have enough? And I said, well, it's not just about teaching somebody. It's, you know, it goes both ways. It's about you learning as well. And the moment that I said that, they were all in. They're like, okay, tell me how we do this. How do I move forward? How can I, you know, because it was so exciting for them, the opportunity, yes, to be part of teaching what they know, their knowledge within their space. But then the idea of learning from somebody else was just so exciting to them. And that is properly how they all reacted to it, which again, I thought was a really beautiful and interesting thing. And I know my VP of finance would kill me for sharing this. Specifically when you posted about him on LinkedIn, he was like, oh, I didn't know I was going to be featured on social. He's like, I usually say no to those.
We ask. I would have thought that we'd ask.
You did.
Him, but...
You did. You absolutely did. He said they asked and I said yes. And I'm shocked that I said yes, was what he wrote to me. And I said to him, you know, you should be proud. You have a lot to offer and you also have a lot to learn. And that's really exciting. And that just got him even more excited about it. So I thought it was a really interesting reaction from internally from those the men in our business who are mentors, and I thought it was a really beautiful reaction as well. So just wanted to share that. It's very real, transparent, kind of how they all reacted to it.
Yeah. So I mean, how do we, as a sort of almost final, well, we still have a few minutes, but in terms of, you know, what are we taking away from this? I think that, you know, for all of us here, I do believe that it's quite apparent that there is so much value in allyship, whether you are the mentee, whether you are the ally, whether you are the organizational ally. But how do we tell, and I mean, we advocate, of course, but how do we influence the industry? Because actually, you know, from our viewpoint, and I think from the viewpoint of those who are in the program involved in allyship, they can absolutely see that it's, you know, one of the perhaps easiest way to visibly sort of not only just commit, but actually execute your commitment. And is, you know, it is a safe space. It is a way to do it that sort of fits with the rest of your working life, that gives you opportunity that actually are sort of, you know, synergetic as well. But how do we tell the rest of the industry that this is the case? Because, you know, we'd love to see hundreds of allies, hundreds of mentees and couples. And is it just time? Is it just that people are just getting on and too much? There is too much. How do we, you know, in all the noises around us, how do we make it happen? I'd be fascinated to hear from, you know, any of you about this. You know, what can we as an organization learn and to make it more effective, more impactful for the industry? Anyone who has suggestion? Juliana, I can see you are thinking.
I am thinking. I have found that as I have been searching for career opportunities, people generally fall into one of 3 buckets. There are people who I reach out to and they don't respond. That's fine. No time is wasted on either side. I know not to take it personally. And there are people I have reached out to who kind of like, I can tell they want to help, and maybe they kind of start helping, but at the end of the day, they're too busy to really be a huge help. And this is a huge time sink for both of us. So that's probably like worst case scenario. And then the last group of people are people who are really like your champions. You reach out to them and they say, yeah, I'll make that introduction. Absolutely. Like, you know, here are some awesome networking events you should be attending. They really are advocates. I think finding those people is really hard. I think we've all been all three of those people at any different point in time. And so that I think is the real challenge, kind of maybe on the searching for mentorship side. But then there's an additional component on the mentee side, which I kind of talked a little bit about earlier, which is for me, when I do find an advocate, there is a part of me that feels that I don't deserve it, right? It's like, well, you don't know me very well. Like, how can I prove to you that I am, you know, truly a good candidate for this role or deeply passionate about this subject? We've only spoken for a few minutes. And I think when you talk about cultivating mentor-menteeship relationships in terms of allyship, you need to be able to convince the mentee side of the equation that they are indeed deserving of assistance. Everybody is, right? I mean, we're all here because we all want to be here. And so why not, you know, kind of help each other out in this regard? So that's kind of where my thoughts were at. But solving the problem industry-wide is a hard question to answer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. But thank you. I think there is a lot of truth in what you said. And again, you know, we encounter companies that say to us, absolutely, we love what you're doing and we love the program, but it's so hard to give the time to do it. And yet, I think in some ways, the time that you use within even a corporate allyship program could save you time in many other arenas, you know, because you are gaining some benefits. So I guess all of this is work in progress. That's for sure. That's for sure. Any other thoughts or comments, or, you know, I'm sort of happy to thank our panelists now, or if you feel that you want to talk a little bit more, it's still open. But it seems to me that we've had a fantastic discussion already, and that, you know, loads of really relevant things have come out. Simona has recorded this session, so we are going to send it to all of you as a link. It's going to be on our YouTube channel. And we are also going to send it to those who clearly wanted to be here, signed up, but for whatever reason were unable to be. And, you know, they may also ask for more questions. Now, again, to all of you who are here, please follow us. If you haven't signed up to our newsletter, do that. If you know people who could benefit from being a mentee, or should be allies, or indeed are heading up companies and should be looking at corporate allyship, have the budget and the influence to make that decision, then please send them our way or put us in touch. We, you know, a lot of what I think the role of allyship is also word of mouth. So, you know, there is a lot that can happen because people refer you to people. So otherwise, you know, look forward to seeing you at the next opportunity. Thank you again. Thank you, Mina, for being up. We finally send you to bed, and hopefully see you all very soon at our next event. And stay in touch. Okay. Take care. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye now.